9-to-5 job. It's not about forgetting about your work when you get home from the office.
Only on 3 occasions have venomous snakes actually gotten me.
The thing that can go wrong is if we miscount the lions.
It's not really work, is it? It's just a way of life.
It's a way of life for us.
When I get to see something that nobody's ever seen before, that's a thrill that I don't think I'll ever get over.
It's getting that image in a way that it's never been captured before.
It's like gambling. You go out, you never know what you're going to get, and more than likely you're not going to get anything. But the payoff is that we live in paradise, and we have a life that nobody else has.
They're images that enchant. Through them, we're face to face with creatures we've never imagined. Witnesses to the stark drama of struggles for survival. Voyeurs of nature's most hidden moments. What does it take to capture those images? Who stalked that lion? Confronted that cobra? Swam with that shark? You're about to meet some of the world's most talented filmmakers. On any given day, they're at work on wildlife films for National Geographic. You'll learn what they do, how they do it, and what it takes to bring back unforgettable images.
I think a lot of people think it's a dream job. In many ways it is, I suppose, but it's a hell of a lot of hard work.
It used to be much harder. The first wildlife filmmakers were true adventurers. The wilderness was wilder then, and conditions were much more primitive. Filmmakers often developed their own film in the bush, and transportation was more often four-legged than four-wheeled. Early pioneers even had to invent their own equipment. Those intrepid explorers brought back images that were a revelation to the public. People had never seen moving pictures of animals in the wild. The footage was hard-earned, but it was guaranteed to keep audiences amazed and enthralled. Today, dependable cameras, high-tech gear, and all kinds of vehicles make the job easier. But the challenge has gotten tougher.
The public sees incredible things on film every day. In fact, they want to see more incredible things. So we in the business are actually pushing the pinnacle of perfection higher and higher and higher. We're competing against ourselves, and we're making it more difficult for ourselves to come out with new things.
And when you're doing film work, there's a certain amount of pressure to get the shot. And you tend to do things that push the envelope a little bit.
Sometimes you can push a little too hard. For the first test of National Geographic's Critter Cam, the camera was attached to the fin of a shark. But the shark swam off prematurely, and things took a horrific turn. A fisherman tried to help by hooking the shark. He didn't realize that cameraman Nick Kalianis was just 10 feet away. But the shark did.
Keep pressure on these points now. One more pressure. Up over here.
The shark tore open Nick's hand and bit his leg to the bone. Nick was medevaced out and went through 9 operations in 21 days. It took him 3.5 months to recover. And then he returned to work on another film about sharks.
Accidents do happen. It certainly wasn't the shark's fault. I would never blame the shark for what happened to me.
Nick's attitude isn't unusual. In fact, most wildlife filmmakers don't think it's dangerous work.
I don't think it's dangerous work. I think it's certainly not dangerous work if you're considering the animals.
We've got to remember that snakes are on the defensive all the time. They're not an offensive animal who's going to attack you.
You'd think there'd be things down there that are constantly stinging and biting, but surprisingly that's not the case.
Press them harder, though, and they'll admit to their share of close calls.
I lost a finger to a puff adder, first of all. I'm handling that for photography. Very nearly lost my life.
I got spit in the eye by a spitting cobra.
That was Africa.
And then, no,
Wrong place.
Actually I got bit by a coral snake. And the coral snake died.
I fell out of the tree in Guyana 55 feet. I was bitten by the insect that gave me leishmaniasis. I was caught up in a war in Rwanda. Been charged by elephants and hung up with microphone cables and couldn't get away. Oh, I don't know. You have to be careful.
Some years later, I was bitten in the backside by a leopard. I jumped down off a cliff and I landed right in front of it, and it came out and got me in the butt.
I got out the car and the cubs were playing to the one side and the mother was lying on the other side. I started walking towards them with a camera, and the next thing the mother just came at me. She actually stopped probably sort of 5 meters away, growling and hissing, and then moved off. I got in the car.
The other thing was African bees. We were attacked by African bees to the point where we thought we were going to die. All of us were stung 40, 50, 60 times in the head and face.
A couple of years after that, I was filming underwater in this crystal clear spring in Mazima. 2 males started a fight. In the confusion, one of the male hippos charged and dropped me by the leg, shook me around like a rag doll for a while. I had a hole through my leg big enough to stick a Coke bottle through.
But danger doesn't deter the best wildlife filmmakers. They'll go to incredible lengths or heights to get the shot. That's what Neil Rettig is famous for. Here, he's climbing 150 feet up to film the world's most powerful bird of prey, the harpy eagle. It has a wingspan of more than 6 feet and talons the size of bear claws. The harpy will attack any intruder that gets too close to its nest, including a precariously perched cameraman.
The first time an eagle flew at me, I was scared to death. The problem is if you're climbing up and you don't know where they are, you have to look in 360-degree radius around to try to spot when they're coming, because if you didn't see them, they'd definitely hit you. They're incredibly powerful. If you weren't roped in, they could knock you right off the limb. We had a leather jacket that was totally shredded by the end of the project. It was just like a big hole in the back,
How do you end up in a spot like this, 150 feet up, warding off attacking eagles? Like most filmmakers, Neil's been following this path from his earliest days.
I grew up in an area that had a lot of wildlife. My parents were very supportive. I would collect turtles and salamanders and snakes and so forth. And I really had an interest in birds of prey especially.
Hey, come on, come on.
Today, when he's not on the road, Neil spends every spare moment raising hawks on his Wisconsin farm.
You are a good boy.
I got into falconry in the late 60s and early 70s. Birds of prey are just so free and fantastic.
Neil's hobby became a career back in the 1970s, when he learned of a giant eagle that had never been photographed. A complete novice at the time, Neil shot the first film ever made about the harpy. Now a highly respected old pro, he's returned. He's spent 6 months here, hoping to capture the first flight of a young harpy chick.
I think all of us have a lot of experience sitting in a blind for weeks at a time and not shooting a single inch of film, waiting for something to happen, and maybe it never will.
The young harpy spent weeks testing its wings and Neil's patience.
And then one day, he went maybe 60 feet out into the canopy of the nest tree. And I was ready, I had my finger on the shutter release, and I was ready to roll the camera thinking, this is it, we're gonna get this first flight. And it just took him forever. He slowly walked down the limb, and he kept walking, and I go, oh my God, he's gonna walk all the way back. But then finally, he just suddenly flew. I was rolling the camera, and I got the first flight.
Some unusual skills are required for filming birds of prey.
Everybody ready?
Did it go over? Yeah, right.
Neil uses a crossbow to rig cable for tracking shots through rainforest canopies.
We have a vertical tracking system where we can lift the camera from the ground to the top of a huge tree. We have a horizontal tracking system. You get a floating sensation tracking through the forest. All these things take a lot of time, and it's a lot of hard work.
Okay, that should be good. Okay, Chris, hold there a second.
Neil became known as a man who could film in high places.
For a while, every phone call I was getting from producers had something to do with climbing.
No climbing was required when Neil went to film in the Arctic. A plane put him down on top of remote Prince Leopold Island. But the job did call for someone who wasn't afraid of heights.
It was incredibly bleak. I mean, the cliff just falls away, 1,000 feet straight down.
The cliffs were bathed in sun the day Neil arrived, but things went downhill after that.
We had the worst weather I think I've ever experienced out in the field. I mean, blowing gales and sleet and freezing rain and howling wind.
Trapped in their tents by the harsh weather, Neil and his sound man were going stir-crazy, Arctic style.
All the eggs have fallen off the cliff. All the eggs have fallen off the cliff. All of them.
When the weather did clear, Neil had other problems. He was trying to film a colony of murres, nesting in crumbly stone on the sides of the treacherous cliff. To get the shot, Neil had to go right to the edge.
The wind literally would buffet you, and it threatened to actually blow you right off the cliff, and of course you're not going to survive falling 1,000 feet. So we're talking about this 200-pound apparatus that we had to set up right on the edge of the cliff with these rocks that are flaking away. And to get the shot, we wanted to actually sweep the camera out with a wide-angle lens to sort of give you a bird's-eye view of what it looked like, to look straight down.
Neil got the shot. And then, a bonus.
There were thousands of nest sites spread out along this cliff face. And there was an Arctic fox that used to raid the nests, but he never came to the area where we were filming, which was the ideal spot for filming. One day, the fox came along, and I was just thinking, God, would it be great if he started raiding these nests right in front of the camera? And sure enough, he went in front of the camera, raided the nests maybe 10 times, 10 different nest sites. I mean, it was just like perfect choreography. And that was probably the most rewarding sequence I've ever done. In the wild, it was just luck. It just happened while I was there, you know, and that's a rarity.
Today, filmmakers like Neil Reddig are well-established professionals in what could actually be called a career. But it wasn't like that when renowned African filmmaker Alan Root started out.
Wildlife photographer wasn't something you could find in any career guides booklet. Fortunately, because the whole business was in its early days, the standards, I have to say, were pretty low. So anything a cut above home movie footage would get onto television because it was all new and exciting to them. And I really appreciate that because the youngsters today have a much harder nut to crack to get in.
Actually, just drop me down here.
I think there's more pressure on me because this is my first film and I obviously want it to be a good film.
You find a shot. Go right, Pete. Go right. Go right.
But as long as I'm learning, that's the key thing.
Still running. Still running.
Matt Aberhard's here in Tanzania to make a National Geographic film about jackals.
Stop.
They're a tough animal to keep in frame.
Missed it. Missed it.
Despite the frustrations and challenges, for Matt, this is the fulfillment of a dream. It's taken some real doing to get this far.
After failing at university, I was really forced to really go for something and do my best.
He landed a few menial jobs in film, including work for a British company that made wildlife films.
I made teas for people, worked long hours, and made sure I was noticed. And gradually one thing led to another.
It led to an invitation to come work for a wildlife filmmaker in the Serengeti.
Driving out to the Serengeti was, one of the best days of my life. I believe I cried when I saw the Serengeti because I had arrived and it really was the culmination of a good deal of difficult, grinding, boring work. And finally I'm here, doing what I want to do.
You ready, Peter?
Matt spent 5 years working for someone else before attempting a film of his own. This is his big chance. He won't get many more if he doesn't deliver. He's chosen a difficult subject. Jackals are unsympathetic heroes.
People watching the film might be distressed by the fact that these jackals are preying on little Bambis. But that gives me a good challenge. I don't have a problem with the fact that people might hate the jackals one minute if I can make them like the jackals the next minute. Make them feel something. If they feel something, that's good. Turn the car down right. I'll get them coming down this ridge.
Jackals can be doting parents.
Okay, get to the den. Get a
And Matt wants to show that by capturing a key scene. The moment when the pups emerge from the den to greet their mother.
Otherwise we're going to miss it. Stop.
No, useless.
Matt's too late. Half a scene won't do.
Oh, I missed the beginning. I should have been here earlier because I knew exactly where she was going. Every day brings a frustration, but you just have to continue on and eventually it all works out. Isn't that right, Pete?
Yeah, sure. Maybe tomorrow, day after, you might get it again.
Absolutely, absolutely.
A couple of hours away, veteran Dutch cameraman Anton van Munster is shooting a National Geographic film about a family of cheetah. It looks like something's about to happen. Less than 15 seconds from beginning to end, and the cheetah never went out of frame.
Okay, stop, yeah. Go quick.
Now Anton moves in for the close-up.
Yeah, go this side.
It puts him right on top of the kill.
Turn. Stop like this.
Of course, I've seen it more than once by now. But I still I can hardly bear that to watch it. It's terrible. But sentimentality in nature doesn't exist.
Things couldn't be going better for the seasoned veteran. As for Matt,
We missed it. There we go.
One cut to the left.
Yeah.
Right. Go around these buildings.
On this side for the direction. Yes.
Go right, Pete. Go right.
Yeah, and now to the left.
Quick. Yes, of course.
Okay, stop like this.
Oh, I missed it again.
Fantastic. Great.
We missed what happened here just by a couple of minutes.
Matt would be happy just to get close to his animals. It's clearly no problem for Anton.
You're happy that there's glass, huh, Swati?
And while the cheetah are climbing all over Anton's car, Matt's is breaking down.
The link snaps. Yes.
Silly people, if my life doesn't change soon, I'm going to blow a gasket here. The last 2 weeks, it's just been relentless problems, cheaters, no weather.
But good wildlife filmmakers are persistent. Once again, Matt waits at the den, hoping to catch the pups emerging to greet their mother. Finally, the right place at the right time. A crucial scene for Matt. A testimony to the gentle side of the jackal. Capturing key moments is a challenge for all wildlife filmmakers. How do you get great scenes like these? What does it take to be a good wildlife filmmaker?
Well, the first thing you need is patience that verges upon stupidity. Because you're down there and typically you're cold and uncomfortable, and you have to be sort of mentally marginal to stay there for hours on end.
To me, the challenge is the most important thing. If somebody says to me, here's a species that's never been filmed before, and you probably can't do it, then that would feed the fire within me to actually accomplish it.
Good wildlife filmmakers are primarily naturalists, and their interest in wildlife filmmaking stems from their interest in animals.
If you understand the animal behavior, you have a better chance of being able to film it. as opposed to understanding the camera techniques and trying to film some animals, never going to work.
Derek and Beverly Joubert have spent a lifetime in close contact with the animals they film, and they've learned every trick of the trade.
We almost try and become part of them so that we know exactly what they're doing and what they wouldn't want us to do.
Okay, so I've got this close-up slow-mo shot here.
For the Jouberts, wildlife filmmaking isn't a job. It's a way of life.
Over here we've got a handy item. It's an elephant's pelvis, and it's great for having our wash basin. And then, of course, our famous toilet. You don't sit there for long because the teeth are still in the elephant's jawbone.
Life in the bush is basic, but the Jouberts' reward is an unusual intimacy with wildlife.
And when we're sitting somewhere and an elephant comes to us, we will just sit and soak up the atmosphere and almost communicate with him. That is something that you would not get in many places.
Such moments are unforgettable, like Howard Hall's extraordinary encounter with a Patagonian right whale.
It was a remarkable experience because after we'd been with the animals a few days, one of them actually became curious and wanted to play with us. And it was amazing. We found that the whale would come right down to me, come right down and sit on the bottom next to me and lean over toward me so that I would scratch his eyebrow. And he'd love for us to scratch him. And we're talking a huge animal. We're talking this gigantic behemoth of an animal coming down, settling only a few feet away with his eyeball only 18 inches from you. And then you just reach out and scratch his eye and you watch him looking at you while you do that. And now you may think, you look into the eye of a whale, you're not going to see any characterization or emotion there, but you can.
There are filmmakers who are drawn to a particular animal.
We found bats to be particularly fascinating subjects.
For me, birds of prey.
The war dogs they're amazing things, and as I said, such humorous little guys.
In some cases, you'd have to call it an obsession.
Okay, just hold it a second there, yeah. Hi, Luke. That's my favorite bear there.
Polar bears are Tom Mangelson's passion.
Cool hand, Luke. Beautiful bear, that guy. But you can't help but get attached to them. You watch them and you know certain individuals. But I've let myself kind of get involved in that. I'm always happy to see, a bear that I recognize.
Tom Mangelson is an award-winning photographer and filmmaker. He's come here to Cape Churchill in northern Canada every year for the past 10 years. With his assistant Kara and an old friend, Spence, Tom traverses the frozen landscape in his tundra buggy, searching for yet another great shot of the bears.
I think they're just beautiful to begin with. They're designed for this landscape. They're powerful, they're strong, they're able to live a solitary, predatory existence. Extraordinary being, it's nice to watch.
But getting so attached to your subjects can take its toll. Tom followed a female he called Pretty Bear for 6 or 7 years. He was thrilled to discover 2 cubs trailing behind her last year. So it was difficult for him to watch when one of the cubs sickened and later died.
It's hard not to be emotional when you see something that's is kind of horrific, as a cub dying in a snowstorm and a mother trying to protect it from all comers. Staying there with it, even though the poor thing's been dead for 2 days.
Tom's emotional connection to the bears leads us to see them in a different light.
The pictures I probably enjoy most are ones that are hopefully more aesthetic and soft and more painterly, maybe. It's probably most people's favorite overall, the one called The Bad Boys of the Arctic. It looks very human. The guy's kicked back looking like he's, ready to turn on the TV or watching the football game or having a beer. I named that image Polar Dance because it looked like they were dancing. It looked like classical dance that people would do. Actually, it's two large adult male polar bears play fighting.
You guys, this could be so cool.
All right. That's nice to see.
In the distance, a mother and two cubs saunter into view.
You got to be impressed by an animal that can raise two 8-month-olds in this landscape. I mean, look at that. I mean, that's harsh out there. Those little guys have been probably walking for 20 miles maybe. Keeps looking back, checking on that one that's kind of lagging behind a little bit.
Tom decides to take a chance to get closer to the action.
A lot nicer to see her low.
It's risky going down on the ground, but the mother bear seems a safe distance away.
She's not going to leave the cubs to get us.
But Tom doesn't see the huge male walking up from behind the buggy. He and Kara race up the steps. Leaving the camera behind.
Hey, that's a little excitement for a change, huh?
That was too close.
Good thing Spencer saw him, huh?
Let's see how they can just come out of nowhere. Too bad your camera's down there because it's a great scene with you.
Oh, it's a wonderful scene. Yeah. That's one of the shots I've been trying to get for the last 5 or 6 years. And I don't know if I'll get another chance at it or not.
And there was our first mother and cubs. Ah!
Jeez.
I can't believe it.
In this business, things don't always go right.
But there's something you've got to get. You've got to get that bit of behavior. This is absolutely vital for the film. And you just go through hell sometimes to get it.
It's very bitter, cold. Wind chills of minus 100 Fahrenheit. You can freeze your flesh in 5 or 6 seconds.
It's so incredibly hot. It's 115 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's just muggy.
And of course, days without having proper showers and baths and things like that.
You're often out on small boats when conditions are rough. You occasionally get to review what you had for breakfast, which is pretty unpleasant.
Millions and billions of mosquitoes and black flies and no-see-ums and every little kind of bug you can imagine getting in your eyes and your nose and your ears and your throat.
You're up to here in muck, going through just a disgusting stench of water. Neil will turn back and look at me and I said, "Isn't this a glamorous business?"
We've had film assistants that have come out to us and paid us to let them go.
The problems just go on and on and on. And it's amazing how many good films get turned out every year.
When you really want to do something bad, it's amazing what you can put up with.
Not many people would want to get this close to a deadly black widow spider. One bite could kill you.
Yeah, she's getting a little close.
But it's all in the day's work for George and Kathy Dodge.
You getting her? Where'd she go?
We come in close contact with venomous animals of all kinds. That doesn't necessarily concern us. I mean, the point is getting the shot.
For the National Geographic film Bite of the Black Widow, George and Kathy decided to get more personally involved than usual.
All that they really asked us to do was film a black widow underneath a blanket. We thought, well, let's put the person under there and add a little movement.
I better cut soon.
Yeah.
I don't want to risk it. She's getting too close.
Yeah.
Good one.
Good, now get her out of here.
It was a nice idea, as long as the Black Widow didn't move too far, too fast.
Get her.
Okay, I'm trying. If we timed things just right, we'd get the Black Widow out from under the cover before it actually reached his flesh. Okay, wait,
While many filmmakers head out into the bush in search of nature's largest animals, the Dodges specialize in filming the smallest, and many would say, the creepiest.
You can only see elephants and lions and zebras and wolves and bears for so long. I mean, there are only certain limited species of each one of these animals. But insects, beetles, wasps, bees, flies, I mean, they're countless. They're countless. We could never run out of subjects.
But if you think it's hard figuring out what an elephant or lion is about to do, try insects.
Like a black widow spider is going to lay eggs. Well, she isn't going to tell us. We don't speak black widow. So she isn't going to tell us, oh, I'm going to be laying these eggs at exactly 1 o'clock tonight.
They seem to do well.
We had 12 black widow females, and they were all gravid, ready to lay eggs, all in separate cages, all ready to be put on the set. One of us will go to bed, and the other one will stay up and watch the black widow for 3 hours, and then we shift back and forth like that.
George!
Oh, she's really doing it, huh?
The least bit of interference would cause her to abandon the whole process. Just a light going on or any sudden shock to the container would throw off the whole scene.
Even when the Black Widows performed on cue, other problems invariably cropped up.
Okay, roll camera, she's starting. Even though we had 2 cameras, this animal's got 8 legs. Several times we would get egg laying, but not a good shot because 1 or 2 of her darn legs would be in the way. And then the mating of the male and the female. Now you're dealing with 16 legs in the way. How do you get a clear, decent shot of the male mating with a female where you can see what's happening? It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all.
George and Kathy even managed to get the Black Widow to bite on cue.
Get that bite, George.
How did they do it?
Well,
that is one of our little professional trade secrets, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
We don't even tell our family. Our family will ask us, well, how did you do that shot? Or how did you do this shot? And we don't tell anybody.
Sometimes the animals don't do what the Dodges want them to. For the National Geographic film Ants from Hell, George and Kathy wanted to shoot a time-lapse sequence of fire ants devouring a frog.
The frog needed to be taken down all the way down to a skeleton, so there was literally nothing left.
And it took a lot of studying to see exactly how long does it take a colony of ants to take down that size of frog.
But apparently, the fire ants hadn't read the script.
The very first colony didn't eat the frog, they buried it. So we dig up the frog, put him back, start on another colony, and they eat the frog halfway and abandon it. It took quite a few attempts, but we finally got it. It came out very nice.
George and I are challenge ourselves to go after those images which haven't been captured before. I mean, to whatever degree that takes us, extreme macro or telephoto, it's getting that image in a way that it's never been captured before.
My particular favorite shot that we've ever done is the harvestman, the close-up of the harvestman eating the aphids. No one had ever seen a harvestman eat an aphid before. We not only saw it, we filmed it. We're bringing this to the public so the public can appreciate this animal and its uniqueness. This is what makes our job worthwhile. This is what makes doing wildlife photography so exciting.
I found the jumping spider to be a very interesting subject because it has a sort of a soft, cuddly look to it, which is appealing.
Soft and cuddly. Did you hear that? Soft. This is what I love about this woman. She loves all animals. She calls a jumping spider cute and cuddly. I mean, it doesn't matter what we shoot or what we photograph. She empathizes with the animal, gets to really like it, and I couldn't find another woman like this on the face of the earth, if I spent the rest of my life trying, and especially one that looks as good as this. I'm one lucky man, I'll tell you.
Yeah, we got to get these guys on the set.
While there are wildlife filmmakers who work alone, it's striking how many of them team up with their spouses or partners.
I'll tell you when you hit 24 frames.
In this business, a good year you might be gone 250 days out of the year. And what kind of a relationship can you have with somebody that's waiting at home? So the ideal situation is if your partner can be part of the team.
Most couples, they see each other at the beginning or the end of the day, and there's a big chunk in the middle where they're doing often interacting with other people. And we have ourselves. And very often we're off in wilderness areas, and we just have to get on, and thank goodness we do.
Look how easy that was. We live with the job. I mean, I can wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and Kathy, I just got the greatest idea.
There sure are difficulties. I mean, working at night time is an incredible difficulty because
she wants to sleep a little bit longer.
Longer, that's right.
Than me.
We had the domestic crossing over into the professional world back and forth. There would be squabbles taking place over who was going to be responsible for vacuuming up the bat guano, let's say, that's dragged into the carpet.
We have these goals and things that we wanted to do in life, and we've dedicated to that. If Beverly didn't share the dedication that I had or vice versa, it wouldn't work. And we would not be a filmmaking married couple out in the bush.
So what do we do? Are we going to do end takes?
First let him do this, and then we'll do a front take, and then we'll ask him questions.
One such couple is Richard and Carol Foster. The husband and wife are among the world's leading wildlife filmmakers. They make a perfect team.
Okay, you ready, Carol?
Yep, rolling.
Richard's the cameraman, while Carol does sound, still photography, and research.
Back there. Oh, they're so cute. They're tiny noses. We're both naturalists, and we both think in the same way.
Get ready, Carol.
Even though we do separate things, then we come together when it's a film.
Carol and I complement each other very well. We're actually both very different kinds of people. I'm much more laid back. Carol revs much higher than I do. I tend to get a bit mentally lazy sometimes, and she gives me a quick kick, when that happens, and I try and calm her down when she gets too hyper, So we have a pretty good effect on each other. Actually, yeah. It works well.
He's clean his mouth part.
We couldn't make these films as individuals. We really couldn't. It's too wide a breadth of stuff to get done. And we both have respect for each other and what we do.
Recently, this filmmaking team had to confront a grave challenge. They were in Venezuela, filming one of the world's biggest snakes, the anaconda, for National Geographic. At first, it seemed like the danger would be in getting the shot. They were following a researcher whose favorite method of finding the snakes was to feel for them underwater with his bare feet.
To get his respect, which was actually I was quite happy to do, was take my shoes off as well. You've got stingrays, which if you tread on one and it stings you, it's 3 months out of your life. They're very, very bad, very poisonous. You've got electric eels, which put out 500 volts and then knock you straight out of the water if you get shocked by them. The snakes actually are not aggressive when they're in the swamp because they're used to being trodden on by other animals. It's only when you start grabbing them and hauling them out, that's when they start turning around and biting you.
But as it turned out, the Fosters faced a much more serious threat than the anacondas during their time in Venezuela.
All of a sudden, I had these sharp pains in my spine, and when I got up, my right leg wouldn't work at all, and I was dragging it. And then my left leg went, and then we decided you better medevac me out of there.
The mysterious illness puzzled doctors. Only one thing was certain: Carol wasn't letting it stop her.
I didn't want to go back to the States or anything. I wanted to go back to the film because I spent so much time getting it to that spot. So I said, I'm going back to the field.
Camera roll 66, scene 1.
And I was either in a wheelchair or somebody was always carrying me.
It's a good job you're light. We could lug you
they
around.
Yeah, they carried me. And I said, I'm going to every scene. I remember my leg.
Over time, Carol regained the use of her legs.
So, okay, Frank, you got it. Okay, you got it.
Now, less than 9 months after her stint in a wheelchair, she's joining Richard on an arduous shoot. For a National Geographic film about bats, the Fosters and their team are descending into a huge bat cave a few hours from their home in Belize.
Grand Central Station of a cave, this, isn't it? It's a monster.
The steep descent is treacherous, but it's a shoot Carol wouldn't want to miss. The Fosters have brought along a unique thermal camera that registers heat rather than light. It's just the thing for filming in pitch-black caves. Hidden in the darkness are all kinds of creepy crawlies. Not to mention thousands of bats.
Going into a bat roost it's a pretty unhealthy place. These bats are all sitting around the roof and they crap down on you, and there's piles of guano on the floor, and the temperature is higher than it is outside. It's sort of Turkish bath feeling about the whole place. There's airborne diseases that the bats propagate in the guano. The main feeling is you want to get the job done and get the hell out, quite frankly. But it's worth going in there just to get the images. Okay, we're going to need that. Okay. So we're going to need.
Soon, the team is setting up for a shot they never could have attempted before. The cave is too big to light. But with the thermal camera, it's heat, not light, that counts.
I think we're warmed up, aren't we?
Yes. This is really.
It's like a starry night.
Yeah,
Look at that.
exactly like a starry night.
You want more detail in the stalactites, or you just want them darker?
Detail, I think, if we can.
Really nice. Keep it there.
Can you record that?
The images are everything Richard and Carol had hoped for. They're showing the bats in a new way, using technology early filmmakers could never have imagined. But for this husband and wife team, being able to capture this scene together is a personal triumph as well. For recently, Carol's mysterious illness was finally diagnosed as multiple sclerosis.
now I hope I'm going into remission. And then I was still able to go into some caves and work on the bat film. And I really tried hard because I have to always be there because I like it so much, Up there in the rocks, there's...
We're going to fight this thing all the way through, and, with modern drugs, who knows? There may be a cure next year.
Yes.
So you just keep your body in shape as much as possible and carry on making films.
For dedicated professionals like these, wildlife filmmaking is in the blood. They'll keep at it as long as they're able. They do it because they love it, and because they know it's important. Someday, their films may be the only record we have of wildlife that is fast disappearing.
The fact of the matter is, the cameramen and the film crews need to be out there because tomorrow it's not going to be there. You see, 25 hammerhead sharks go by, you're bound to be impressed, but 15 years ago, it would have been 500 hammerhead sharks. As a cameraman, I have an opportunity to make a difference. People see these wonderful animals, and they don't want them to disappear.
From the first hardy pioneers who dazzled new audiences, to the conservation-minded professionals of today, wildlife filmmakers are adventurers, driven to bring back images that hold us spellbound.
I can't imagine a job which has so much reward, certainly for me.
We have fun every single day of our lives. I think that there is nothing else that I would rather be doing right now on this earth.